Won't stop till we reach the town.
Midnight died in the last great cavalry charge of Shiva during World War I.
She's taken a bullet to the stomach and she jumped over a German trench.
Take a bullet and die. His family still has the bullet.
In Afghanistan, the number 2 job in a search team is to follow the handler. Make sure that when the handler is looking at the explosive device dog, the dog and the handler are protected.
The number 2 in this case was Snowy.
The dog, Herbie.
And the handler, Darren.
One morning they found 2 or 3 hides, and as they were moving along the path, they found Snowy went in to check and see what it was. It went off. 3.
I had 3 explosive device dogs in Afghanistan. Sam, Raz, and Tank. Raz, still on a pressure plate. Raz!
My little boy, he gave it unholy sacrifice, noble and strong. This God. I wish you for a lifetime, I did. Always I remember your sacrifice.
There are no animals that deserve the title of man's best friend as much as the animals that go to war with us. Donkeys, cats,
Llamas, elephants,
Horses, mules,
camels,
birds,
Dogs, tigers.
reindeer, to name but
different animals have accompanied our soldiers in times of war.
bears,
And goats.
have served as mascots.
One mascot was a female black bear named Winnie,
who was also known for inspiring Winnie the Pooh.
Elephants were unstoppable tanks.
crashing through enemy lines.
Cats also joined our soldiers in the trenches, keeping vermin and rats away and detecting gas. One cat, known as Red Lead, was the mascot of the HMAS Perth, who along with many soldiers was lost in the Battle of the Java Sea in 1942.
Camels, donkeys, and mules all use their great strength and endurance to carry soldiers and supplies to the front lines of war and bear the wounded away from the battlefield.
Australian legend
Private Simpson of the 3rd Field Ambulance at Gallipoli.
used his donkey to carry wounded soldiers back to shore. He worked with soldiers every single day until his tragic death on the 19th of May, 1915.
Pigeons flew in great numbers over battlefields, perilously navigating through endless streams of gunfire, explosives, and other dangers, with many awarded the Dickon Medal for gallantry for their services.
Horses carried soldiers to the front lines of war, some in great cavalry charges. Out of all the Australian horses sent to World War I, only one was returned to Australia.
Sandy the Whaler.
By Major General William Briggs.
Dogs have loyally accompanied our soldiers through thick and thin through the chaos of war. Even when the fighting was done and the war began to close, dogs stuck with our soldiers as beacons of hope and companionship.
The 24th of February is Purple Poppy Day. This is the day where we commemorate all of the animals that have served in the armed forces throughout the world over many years.
The Australian War Animal Memorial Organisation was established by Nigel Allsop, a retired police dog handler. It is now internationally recognised for the work it does in the remembrance of the animals who served us, as well as the assistance in finding homes for those who can no longer serve.
Good morning, distinguished guests, and importantly, students of our Newcastle schools. Welcome on behalf of Newcastle's public, Catholic, and independent school communities to the 66th Annual Newcastle Combined Schools ANZAC commemorative event.
We'd like to acknowledge that this commemorative event is taking place on Awabakal land and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We'd also like to pay our respects to the invaluable sacrifice that Indigenous soldiers have made and to those who have fought in war for the freedoms and rights us Australians have today.
Since its beginning in 1954, this service has seen over 65,500 Newcastle school students attend. We wish to acknowledge the following special guests. Philip Frawley, the Secretary of the Merriweather Hamilton Adamstown RSL sub-branch and a sponsor of this event. Councillor Diana Richardson, representing the Lord Mayor of Newcastle, Councillor Nuatali Nelms.
Sharon Clayton MP, Federal Member for Newcastle. Councillor Peter Whitty-Hart, City of Newcastle.
Greg Hooper, Head of Customer Lending, and Claire Wilkinson, Specialist Partnerships and Community Engagement from Newcastle Permanent Building Society, Principal Corporate Sponsor.
Peter Fidden, Acting President, Newcastle District Council of RSL Sub-Branches, and Craig Turnbull, Managing Director, Veterans Trails.
Jenny Moody, Director of Educational Leadership on behalf of Tim McCallum, Executive Director, Regional North New South Wales Department of Education.
2022 is the 23rd year that this ceremony has been organised by a subcommittee of senior high school students. However, we couldn't have done it on our own. We wish to recognise our teachers for their support and encouragement.
We especially acknowledge Newcastle Permanent Building Society, who has provided the essential financial support as sponsors for the past 17 years to enable this unique event to continue its proud tradition.
We also recognise the City of Newcastle, Merriweather, Hamilton and Sound RSL sub-branch, the Catholic Schools Office, Diocese of Maitland, Newcastle, St Philip's Christian College, Newcastle, Department of Veterans Affairs, Bentley's Newcastle, Australian Families of the Military and numerous other supporters.
The 2022 members of the subcommittee are Tristan Vernon, who could not be with us today, and Evelyn Parks from Callaghan College Jesmond Senior Camp. Josie Boyd from St Francis Xavier's College Hamilton.
Purely Muslim, Aspire.
Lexi Moore, who couldn't be here today, and Charles Dunn from St Philip's Christian College, Newcastle.
Gabriel Logan,
And Ivana Anacito from Merriweather High School. We would now like to welcome Councillor Deanna Richardson to deliver the opening address and speak on behalf of the Ward Mayor and the people of Newcastle.
Good morning. Let me begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional country of the Awabakal and Waimai peoples. The City of Newcastle recognises their cultural heritage, beliefs and continuing relationship with the land, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. On behalf of the citizens of the City of Newcastle, I warmly welcome our guests to the 66th Annual Newcastle and Hunter Combined Schools ANZAC commemorative event. It's an honour to be here today representing our Lord Mayor, Councillor Untitled Chapter. This unique event we're seeing today commemorates the proud military heritage of our region. Since 1954, it's been an integral part of the commemoration of ANZAC in our community. The City of Newcastle is proud and privileged to host and sponsor the ongoing work of the Combined Schools ANZAC service to bring to life our stories about the service and sacrifice by these students who have given their time and effort to bring this event to you. They are supported by a team of teachers and volunteers and further supported by our city and our other sponsors. I thank the Newcastle Permanent Building Society, the Catholic Schools Office and the RSL for their significant contributions as well. It is due to these commitments from students, from volunteers, from our city and from our fellow sponsors that this event and the meaning of the ANZAC traditions can be sustained and brought to life on occasions such as this. Today we are seeing that service and sacrifice is something that involves those creatures that are part of our everyday lives. We are seeing that in times of war and conflict, the service and companionship of animals have a special place in our ANZAC commemoration. There is a growing movement to recognise the service of animals in times of war, and this commemorative event today brings to life that special contribution. As we are seeing, the service of animals is one of companionship, of trust, and one that bonds veterans to their memory. We are gaining a broader understanding of the meaning of sacrifice and the cost of war and conflict. And so I want to focus on three important words. They are the words of meaning about why we are here today. They are the words of the message that we all believe must be kept alive in our hearts and in our souls. They are the three words that inspire the purpose of this event and of the ANZAC services that you will soon see over the next month. We are, at this very moment, seeing the cost of war in far-off Ukraine, and we are seeing the dreadful impact that the forgetting of those three words has had. Our veterans and those who have experienced the pain and suffering of war know too well that we must do all we can to prevent war and conflict. Those veterans and volunteers who host these commemorative events and keep the flame of commemoration alive are now ageing. For them, age is wearying and the years do condemn. They have worked hard to keep the flame alive, but now is the time that others must pick up that torch and continue to shine that light on the meaning of ANZAC and to keep the meaning of those 3 words alive. It is up to the next generations, students and sponsors to continue to honour them. Those 3 words must be said each and every year. The meaning of those 3 words must be understood, and the meaning of those words must guide us. When we say, lest we forget, we ask others to remember the service and sacrifice of our veterans and to understand the meaning of that sacrifice. We ask others to continue the work that will see that their service and sacrifice shall not have been in vain. We ask you to do all you can to make sure that those lessons of the past are not forgotten. It is we here that must not forget. It is we here today that must keep the flame of ANZAC alive. And so, on behalf of the city, I welcome you all to this special and commemorative event.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. ANZAC Day traditionally commemorates the sacrifice of members of the Australian and New Zealand Armed Forces and those who have died in all wars and peacekeeping operations. It is held on the anniversary of the landing at Gallipoli in Turkey 107 years ago, on the 25th of April 1915.
Since Australia became a nation in 1901, hundreds of thousands of Australian members of the Australian Armed Forces have served in war zones throughout the world during World War I and World War II, the Korean and Vietnam Wars. More than 100,000 Australians have died for their country as members of our armed forces, and many more were wounded.
Some are young, particularly those who have returned from peacekeeping deployment in conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan and operations in the Solomon Islands and East Timor.
41 members of the Australian Defence Force have been killed, 261 wounded in Afghanistan.
On Tuesday, the 6th of June 1944, during World War II, the Allied forces began the liberation of France from the German forces, what later became known as D-Day.
We're just 20 miles or so off the beach. First assault of troops landed 0750. Signal says no interference from enemy gunfire on the beach. We're standing steadily in formation. Lightnings, typhoons, fortresses crossing since 0545. No enemy aircraft seen.
The message was tied in a tiny container and attached to the leg of a homing pigeon, Gustav.
It took Gustav 5 hours and 16 minutes to cover the 150 miles across the English Channel whose RAAF blocked in Hampshire. For his effort, Gustav was awarded the Dickon Medal on September the 1st, 1944.
4 pigeons, including Gustav, were awarded Dickon medals for their part in Operation Overlord, the D-Day Operation co-word.
Along with Gustav,
Paddy, for the best recorded time of a message from the Normandy operations while serving with the RAAF in June 1944.
Navy Blue for delivering an important message from a raiding party on the west coast of France, although injured while serving with the RAAF in June 1944.
Duke of Normandy for being the first pigeon to home from paratroops behind the German lines on D-Day in adverse weather after 5 days detained in a small container.
the BDSA Dickon Medal is awarded to any animal displaying conspicuous gallantry and devotion to duty. Out of the 53 Dickon Medals presented during World War II, 32 were presented to pigeons.
It is estimated that nearly 250,000 pigeons were used by the Army, the RAAF, and Civil Defence Services during World War II.
Mary Exeter was awarded the Dickon Medal for outstanding and impressive war service and started many moves she encountered.
First mission, she was attacked by a peregrine falcon and needed 22 500 pigeons were donated to the Australian Army Corps during World War I.
A story closer to home. A beautiful symbolic story broke news in 2019 that 2 pigeons had built their nests on a ledge against a stained glass window depicting a wounded soldier in the Wall of Remembrance at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra.
Where have all the puppies gone?
Look, it's up there.
Oh, that's where they've been disappearing to.
Their nest was made from poppies taken from the tomb of the unknown soldier, solving the dilemma for memorial staff for the disappearing poppies.
Strangely enough, this story happened just 2 days before Remembrance Day, the 11th of the 11th.
Dr. Malia Hampton, a historian at the AWM, said,
Whenever we talk about animals in war, they are fulfilling a purpose or performing a task that people can't do. Here, in this sacred place, these 2 pigeons are preparing for commemorates death, sacrifice, and renewal. The pigeon is a symbol of war and peace, having consistently played a vital role, a role that today's society, both young and old, should not forget.
Horses, donkeys, and mules are thought of as very similar animals, but this is not the case. Mules are a cross between a male donkey and a female horse, and are physically superior to both. Their strength makes them perfect for carrying supplies and people.
There are less than a dozen mules left in Australia today, but during World War I they were highly sought after, being described as
The second most important member of any army unit, second only to the commandant himself.
Horses, donkeys, and mules have been used by humans for over 6,000 years. During World War I, they
Pulled wagons.
carried soldiers and artillery, transport,
Used for raids,
Communication and supply to the front line, transport wounded, and much more.
they were eventually replaced by motorised vehicles, but their final battles in World War I would go down in history.
On the 31st of October, 1917, one of the last great cavalry charges took place.
These individuals became known as from the famous
Australian Light Horse Brigade.
About 800 men, all on horseback, charged 6 open kilometres towards entrenched Turkish defenders in a conflict now known as the Battle of Beersheba.
Trooper Ernest Pauls, aged 24, was a member of the 12th Light Horse Regiment and one of the 800 men involved in the charge.
We are taking a wide circle around Beersheba and attacking from behind. Our infantry will attack from the front with grenades and bombardment from artillery.
We're going to gallop right through the Turkish defences. Don't stop until you reach the town.
They lined up behind a set of hills.
And they came out at a gallop. There were 8 kilometres between the hills and town. As they closed the distance, they jumped right over the Turkish trenches in their way.
The 12th and 4th Regiments of the Light Horse have entered Beersheba.
The yelling, seething,
Searching,
Fierce,
Galloping,
men of the 12th went right on past these trenches and into Beersheba.
capturing the whole of its garrisons and guns and munitions.
Before the enemy even realized we had attacked it all.
This is by far the most successful campaign made on this front, and will live in history forever!
After having nothing to drink, in days, Australian horses were fed water from the town's wells. They drank over 2 million litres in one afternoon.
It is estimated that around 70 horses were killed that day. Guy Hayden of Murrurundi lost his own horse midnight in the charge.
Although it is the heaviest fire I've been under, I never felt less afraid. I was terribly disappointed in being shot before I reached the town. Midnight was shot, injured, never to be seen again.
Throughout the war, Australia sent over 120,000 horses. They were known as whalers and were sent to France, India, and the Middle East.
By the end of the war, only 13,000 horses were left. Many believe that these horses were shot by their troopers instead of being taken home to Australia, since diseases could be spread to horses back home.
However, the Australian government classified the remaining horses according to age and fitness. Those who passed moved to the imperial units for later reissue or were
Sold to the Indian Army.
We'll take them in Egypt.
France would like the draft horses.
Only 3,000 of the 13,000 horses evaluated were deemed unfit for reissue. These were the only horses put down by Australians after the war. The rest lived out their lives servicing armies and farms overseas. We are all encouraged to choose rescue animals when looking for pets.
That is where most security and explosive device dogs are also found. That dog that has been surrendered because it is too playful, energetic, and needing too much attention, that's a perfect dog for training.
There are no specific breeds, but they do need to be at least medium-sized.
Alsatians, Labradors,
Border Collies,
And Kelpies are commonly selected.
security dog handlers like RAAF leading aircraftsman Daniel McCormack go to dog shelters with tennis balls. They look for dogs that have a high drive to retrieve and return repeatedly. These dogs are brave, loyal, and they become stellar at teamwork.
They play an integral role in missions. After recruitment, these dogs undergo 14 weeks of training and develop strong bonds with their handlers. In this time, they are taught
how to find and release people,
And to take down the bad people.
To protect the good people.
how to track a human,
Sniff the scents in the ground. Smell a human in the breeze when near. They complete exercises in.
Agility, learn basic obedience.
Daniel McCormack and his retired security dog Outlaw have an inseparable bond. Daniel says the two can sense one another when one another are not okay and always there for each other.
Our relationship has evolved from working as partners to being a family.
In 2017, Outlaw accompanied Daniel to Guam. Their duty?
To assist the detection and detainment of enemy forces.
Outlaw used the training he had, such as scent training and tracking skills, to
Hunt down the enemy.
Daniel then providing this information to his commander. Military teams would then use the leads provided by the skillful outlaw and capture the enemy.
Outlaw's skills were key to the successful completion of missions.
Improvised explosive device dogs play a significant role in wars. Whether it be in Afghanistan or many years ago, dogs have always been a part of the war. Craig Turnbull was a dog handler in Afghanistan between 2006 and 2010. His job as detection dog handler was to go out to different branches of the military and detect explosives, weapons, or caches.
A cache means a collection of weapons or explosives used for making an improvised explosive device, or IED. Also, building searches. In Afghanistan, they were more like mud brick homes, little caved areas, and occasional tunnels.
And route searches for convoys, which meant being in front of that convoy to look for any IEDs that could cause damage to the vehicle or hurt the vehicle's occupants.
Also, there are vehicle searches. Vehicles can carry a lot of explosives, causing a lot of damage. Dogs were trained to work off lead and at a distance. You could search a vehicle parked 20 to 30 meters in front and see if there was a device on board or not.
And there were fields, otherwise known as an area search. If you think of a football field, they cast a dog and use their arms to tell the dog to change directions, left and right, and then look for any devices.
Craig had 3 different dogs. The first one was Sam.
Sam was an older type dog and a border collie.
He had been in the army probably 5-6 years. Really good dog, friendly and smart. He retired in 2006.
Second dog was a black Labrador.
Raz, nicknamed Captain Raz,
A friendly dog who used to like sleeping next to other soldiers for body warmth.
because it was quite cold when he was there.
Typical Labrador, he loved it. The third dog he deployed was
Tank, a Belgian Malinois. He has a statue at Afghanistan Memorial near Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane.
Tank was super successful. He found lots of bombs and caches. He could work a lot longer than most other dogs. His drive was exceptional.
the problem with Tank.
If you were in a vehicle like a Bushmaster with Tank, he would often react poorly to his food.
What are you feeding that dog?
That's deadly.
Tank's farts could murder 1,000 men.
The story of Captain Raz.
It used to get quite cold in Afghanistan that year, with high winds for months on end, especially near the mountains where there was snow.
Raz is swag dog. When soldiers went to picket night watch, Raz would swag hop all night for body warmth.
Raz, come on night duty with me. No? Too cold? Okay.
Having this trained dog with them was so good for the troops' morale. All the troops were attached to him.
Captain Raz.
The bond between a dog and a handler is indescribable. The love that they have for each other is very, very important.
The day that we lost Raz changed me for life.
There was a major operation happening in Afghanistan. An American operating base was almost overrun by the enemy.
The troop of SAS that Raz and I were attached to was sent out to help out. We got there, helped out, and managed to get the enemy moved off.
Time to move back to main base. Back to Terran Count.
They left early in the morning to return because they had to get through a big pass. with quite a long way to go, and the terrain in Afghanistan is rough.
The vehicle suffered some damage. Differentials on the vehicle have been destroyed.
We'll have to fix it in place.
Bring in a spare from one of the other vehicles to replace it. Dogs will usually sit in the front or second front vehicle.
Raz and I were in the front vehicle with the damaged vehicle behind. So we had gone up to the top of the hill to watch over and make sure that no one would come across and to protect the guys that were working on their vehicle.
Some movement, some 700 meters ahead. It's an Afghani. He's digging.
That's a bad sign. He might be planting a device. Drive down. We'll intercept him.
It was a trap.
They had put a device in a small creek line about 300 meters back from that Afghani. When driving to intercept him, they drove over a device that exploded.
2 soldiers have been blown up and the vehicle is damaged.
Escaped the majority of the blast and managed to get out and render first aid to those guys until the medics arrived, which is pretty quick. Can you pressure on it? Vehicle's damaged beyond repair.
We'll have to drag it out with another vehicle.
Because they'd already been hit once, they had to go forward. On the other side, there were major cliffs or mountains. There was no other way.
I checked on Raz and he was okay, so we had to keep going through. Even though, because we'd been hit once, there was already a high chance we would be hit again along the road. We had gone on for a few hours and Raz smelt something and went off to investigate. He stood on a pressure plate. Raz! Nothing could have survived a blast like that.
Craig was wounded, bleeding from both ears and medevaced out. Another dog handler, David Simpson, and his EDD dog, Savi, replaced him with the medevac chopper. Once Raz passed away, Craig returned to Australia in 2007 and didn't go back until 2010. Sun breaks on the pavement, terrain for you. You know that game we play. The shadow, the day plays in my mind. The shadow in the sky reminds me of you. The pain, the life that we lost forever. A labrador might pass. Little boy, he gave an unknowing sacrifice, noble and strong, and fierce and kind. I'll miss you for a lifetime, my dear. Always I remember your sacrifice. They trusted their dogs implicitly.
Without ED dogs, many of our soldiers wouldn't be here, and many are forever grateful for the unknowing sacrifice that these dogs made for all of them.
Thanks, Russ.
Like many people living with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, Andrew was a man who suffered with everyday life. He served in the military for 15 years, twice in East Timor, until PTSD mental health issues forced him to retire.
Simple daily activities that most of us take for granted were impossible. For this husband and father of 3, his life and future was looking bleak and hopeless.
Benji changed everything. Anxieties, anger, depression, all became more manageable the moment this bouncy ball of fur bounded through the front door.
When Benji was home, he was wagging his tail. My wife opened the door to let him in, and ever since they've been a part of our family.
Our children, they love him so much.
The pair go everywhere together, for walks, to the shops, to Andrew's appointments with doctors and psychologists. Andrew smiles happily.
We're always together. and I wouldn't have it any other way.
We welcome to the stage Craig Turnbull, Managing Director, Veterans Trails.
Sergeant Royal Australian Engineer, EDD Handler Instructor, School of Military Engineering, and retired Explosive Detection Dog, TRIP.
Corporal Daniel McCormack, Air Force Security Military Working Dog Handler.
We are the soldiers who have no voice in war or peace. We have no choice, yet we toil and we fight alongside the man. We do all we do in the best way we can. We bleed and we die, we bark, neigh and cry, our stand beside men in the madness and lie. Our numbers are millions, in all of the wars. We march not unto defeat, but for hymns and wars. Freely our loyalty, hard work, and trust. We don't understand causes and if they are just, but in harness or saddle, collar, we'll follow regardless, as this is our creed. Mr. Phil Frawley, Secretary of the Meriwether Hamilton Adamstown RSL Sub-Branch, will introduce the Remembrance section of our event.
Thank you. Some amazing talent on show there. I offer my congratulations to these students who have presented this service event for you today. They, in these times, have battled through the challenges of the pandemic like so many of you. As well as their schoolwork, they have volunteered many hours of their time to prepare for and present this wonderful event. On behalf of the Meriwether Hamilton Adamstown branch of the RSL, I thank them and the organisers for their effort and commitment. Today, they have brought to life and to our attention the recognition of animals in service of our nation in times of war and conflict. This move towards recognition began formally in 2012 and it continues to grow in importance. The recognition has been awarded a National Day of Recognition by the Department of Veterans Affairs and is now a feature of the Australian War Memorial. Purple poppies are now a feature of our remembrance. In particular, for the new generation of veterans, the role of animals in wartime and the service of animals has become a cherished memory and one worthy of commemoration. The importance of animals has many facets. In another example, the 5th Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, during the Vietnam War, adopted a tiger as its mascot. This was more than symbolic. It instilled a pride and joy in the unit and the tiger mascot remains a feature of their Remembrance Day. ANZAC Day is a very emotional day for those who have served. For most veterans, it is a day to think about their service, their mates, their animal companions, and to reflect on what may have been. It is not a day to celebrate. ANZAC Day is a time to reflect upon the cost of war and conflict and its impact upon our lives. War is a terrible thing. Think of the images from Ukraine. We need to continually remind ourselves of this. Let us do everything that is possible to ensure that war does not happen again. This commemorative ANZAC event tries to educate students about what it means to serve. Through the power of storytelling, we have learned today about the service and sacrifice of animals. We have learned too about the special relationship that they have had to our servicemen and women. The remembrance section of this ANZAC service is about to begin. You will see a number of special rituals and traditions, including bugle calls, the lowering and raising of the flags, the laying of tributes that place at ANZAC Day services across Australia and New Zealand. Each has a special meaning that will be explained to you. In the future, when you attend ANZAC services in your community, you will be able to better understand its meaning and be able to tell your family and friends what these traditions mean. Thank you for being here today and for being a part of the meaning of ANZAC.
You will be aware of the cadets in uniform
Guard attention. Guard slow. March. Guard. Halt. Guard outwards. Turn. Guard rest on. Arms.
You will be aware of the cadets in uniform standing on stage, but you may not know why they are here.
I call upon the Guard Commander, Cadet Warrant Officer Oscar Wright of Number 321, City of Newcastle Squadron, Australian Air Force Cadets, to explain the role of the cadets in today's ceremony.
These four people in Royal Australian Air Force uniforms are members of what is called a catafalque party. Traditionally, a catafalque guard is a raised structure in which a coffin is placed for display before burial. A catafalque may also be used on ceremonial occasions such as ANZAC Day and today, as a focal point of the service and as a cenotaph. A cenotaph is a memorial that honours a person or group of people buried somewhere else. It means an empty tomb. Four armed sentries guard as a sign of respect to soldiers, this is known as a stand at a rest on arms reversed, which is a position of mourning